Hello, welcome to the Oakland Side 510. I'm Tasneem Raja. Every week on the 510, we catch you up on the biggest Oakland news and take you behind the headlines. Today's deep dive. How does Oakland decide who gets millions of dollars a year in city contracts? And is that process fair and transparent? Our City Hall reporter, Eli Wolfe, has been investigating Oakland's system for delivering tens of millions of dollars in private contracts for a couple years now. Along the way, he has uncovered missing transparency reports, controversial deals tied to an FBI investigation, and questions about whether the city is meeting its goals for supporting minority and women-owned businesses. Plus, headlines on new policies at Oakland Animal Services, new street design in Chinatown, universal transitional kindergarten in Oakland, and Oakland City Council members' special bank accounts and how they've been spending them. We'll close out with our arts reporter, Azucena Rasilla, who will bring you a look at weekend activities and a guide to fall events in Oakland. That's popular festivals that are going to sell out fast and some hidden gems you might not know about. That's all coming up after headlines. All right, time for headlines. I'm here with our senior reporter, Natalie Ornstein, to run through some of our latest reporting. How you doing, Natalie?
Hey, Tasneem, I'm doing well. I'm counting down the days till I go camping this weekend.
Oh, fantastic. Getting some more in before the end of the season. All right, let's start with some education news. Here's the headline. All Oakland 4-year-olds are eligible for transitional kindergarten. What do we need to know?
Yeah, it's a big change for Oakland schools. Starting this school year, all 4-year-olds can enroll in transitional kindergarten no matter when their birthday is. That's a change because before this, only kids who had turned 5 between September and December were eligible for that program. It's all part of a statewide rollout that's been going on since 2022. And it's a huge boon to working parents in Oakland.
Absolutely. I will say, as a parent who has had a kid in private preschool for the last 4 years, it is shockingly expensive. You know, everybody says save for college. I think we should be talking about saving for preschool too. Glad to hear there's more happening in Oakland. What has the impact been on Oakland schools?
Yeah, it's been pretty immediate. It's significantly boosted enrollment across Oakland public schools. Ashley McBride, who covers education for the Oakland side, spoke with the principal at Grass Valley Elementary. That school had actually been losing students for 5 straight years.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, but then last year they added a transitional kindergarten program, and this was even before this latest expansion, but it helped increase enrollment there, and it's paid off this year. Their regular kindergarten class doubled in size because it absorbed all those kids from TK. And now that TK is open to all 4-year-olds, Oakland Unified is actually adding 7 new TK classes across the district, and about 1,200 students have enrolled so far.
I can tell you that the panic among preschool parents I know was palpable. At the time that our kids became eligible for TK, we knew there were very few spots, and it's great to know that more are opening up. But I have to wonder, how are the private preschools feeling about all this?
Yeah, it's definitely creating challenges for them. Parents are opting for free TK instead, and they're concerned about losing not only students, but workers as well. You know, wages for childcare workers are incredibly low. And if those teachers can get credentialed, they'll earn much more teaching TK for the district.
Okay, let's move on to our next story. Here's the headline. Chinatown Complete Streets Concept Plan moves to design and funding. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, we all know how crowded Oakland Chinatown can get on its sidewalks and streets. And this story is about plans to make that pedestrian-heavy neighborhood safer to walk around. The Department of Transportation in Oakland has spent 2 years developing a plan to improve 8th, 9th, Webster, and Harrison streets in Chinatown. And now the plan is ready for its next phase, which is securing funding and hiring a designer.
So what kind of changes can we expect?
Things like wider crosswalks with more room for street vendors, bike lanes, better street designs.
Yeah, I mean, all of that sounds great. Do we have a sense of how people who live and work in Chinatown are feeling about this?
Well, since Chinatown gets a lot of foot traffic, especially from seniors, I know safety improvements will be embraced. The community has been involved in this planning process, which has been bilingual. Residents have been doing walking tours with city staff to identify the biggest problem areas.
All right, next story. This one is about our furry friends. Here's the headline. With more animals and fewer resources, Oakland Animal Services rethinks its strategy. What's going on?
Yeah, I actually adopted my cat, Oyster, from Oakland Animal Services a few years ago, so this story definitely caught my attention. Basically, Oakland Animal Services, the city-run shelter, is facing a crisis. They've seen a nearly 95% increase in cat and dog intakes, but they don't have the resources to handle that. So they're changing their policies. The biggest change is that they'll now keep healthy, free-roaming cats in the areas where they live instead of bringing them into the shelter. They're also reducing how long stray animals are held before adopting them out or placing them with foster homes. And they may start turning away surrendered animals from people who don't live in Oakland anymore.
Yeah. Do we know how animal advocates are responding to these new policies from OAS?
Yeah, there's definitely been some pushback. Shelter volunteers and animal advocates are concerned that these policy changes were made without enough public input. They're also worried that not all neighborhoods are safe for the free-roaming cats. It's a tough situation. The shelter is overwhelmed, but advocates want to make sure the animals don't suffer.
Got it. Okay. Last story. Here's the headline. I have people in line to give me money. How Oakland council members spent their office holder funds. This is very intriguing. What are office holder funds and what did our reporter look into?
Yeah, Eli took a deep dive into how city council members have been using these office holder accounts so far in 2025. So if you don't know what an office holder account is, think of all the meals or travel or donations to community organizations that elected officials might want to make that aren't covered by the city budget or their office's budget. So they have these special bank accounts and they can raise money to fill them and use on those kinds of expenditures. The council recently raised the contribution limits for these accounts, so we wanted to look at how officials are spending their money under the new rules so far.
Okay, what did Eli find?
He found that most council members barely use their accounts at all, though keep in mind that the contribution limits were just raised. But there were already some notable exceptions. District 6 council member Kevin Jenkins spent thousands of dollars on expensive meals and meetings, including restaurants in Washington, D.C. and the Bay Area. And D4's Janani Ramachandran spent nearly $18,000, all of which went to a company linked to her romantic partner and her communications director. You know, Ramachandran told us the companies made purchases on behalf of her committee and didn't take fees, but it raises some questions about how these funds are being used.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we're going to keep looking at that. Okay, thanks so much, Natalie, for catching us up on recent headlines. Coming up, Eli Wolfe's investigations into Oakland's relationship with contractors. Every year, Oakland spends tens of millions of dollars contracting with private companies to do everything from providing security at City Hall, to fixing potholes, to running youth programs. But how does the city decide who gets those contracts? And is that process fair and transparent? Our City Hall reporter, Eli Wolfe, has been digging into Oakland's contracting processes for years now. He's been uncovering everything from missing transparency reports to controversial security contracts tied to an FBI investigation. Maybe you've heard a little bit about that. Eli, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tasneem.
Okay, let's start with the basics. When we talk about city contracts, what are we talking about exactly?
Yeah, so Oakland contracts out a huge range of services that residents interact with pretty much every day, often without realizing it. So the guards that check your bags when you enter City Hall, those are private contractors. The company that picks up your recycling, contractor. The people who pave our roads, maintain our parks, provide our social services, a bunch of them are working for private companies under contract with the city of Oakland. We're talking about many millions of dollars in taxpayer money every year. Just as an example, Oakland's new security contract alone is worth about $45 million over several years.
Yeah, that is serious money. I know you have written several stories about problems with Oakland's contracting system. So what have you found?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of issues that I found, but I'm going to focus on just three of the big problems. The first is transparency. The city council has to approve all contracts over $250,000, so we have a lot of visibility into that. But the city has discretion to issue smaller contracts on its own.
Okay, smaller contracts. So give me an example.
So maybe a smaller, kind of sillier example is just traffic citations. The paper that those are printed on, that has to be contracted out.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so the city is supposed to publish annual reports that disclose all of those smaller contracts, which can often add up to more than $10 million per year. But they haven't published these reports in nearly 2 years.
Huh.
Which is a serious issue. The second problem, I would say, is around competitive bidding. Oakland city staff review bids for contracts, and they recommend who the city council should pick, but we've seen council members sometimes override those bids to choose contractors they prefer.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and in fact, this actually happened last month when several council members rejected the company picked by Public Works to receive the city's new security contract. They brought up some concerns about the company's track record, and they demanded that staff have the award go to a smaller local contractor. And the third issue, which I think probably most people would consider the most concerning, is that we've seen contractors sometimes get wrapped up in damaging controversies. The most dramatic example of that is the ABC Security Services contract.
Okay, tell us about ABC Security.
So ABC Security provides guards at City Hall and other city facilities. They've had this contract since 2018, and it's been extended over and over again. By now, the company's been paid somewhere around $30 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so a problem for city leaders is that ABC's owner has business ties to Mario Juarez, who you may recognize as a central figure in the FBI investigation that led to searches of then Mayor Sheng Tao's home, along with the owners of CWS, another contractor.
I think anybody who's been paying close attention to Oakland news over the past year, Mario Juarez is becoming something of a household name.
Absolutely. So according to the district attorney, ABC, which is not named in the indictment, also gave a lot of money to Juarez in the lead up to the 2022 election to help elect Tao. We also uncovered something striking, which is that in early 2023, city staff recommended awarding that security contract to a different company through competitive bidding, but that got derailed through the interference of high-ranking city officials, including Tao. We still don't have a complete picture explaining why all that happened, but as a result of it, ABC just kept getting extensions.
Eli, how much do you think Oakland residents know about all of this? And I'm also curious how much you think they should care. For example, if somebody's going to City Hall and they see a security guard, at the front entrance, do they have any way of knowing, whether that's a private contractor, that's a city employee, and also, does it matter?
Yeah, I would say anecdotally, just based on talking to folks, most residents have no idea. If you go into City Hall and you go through those metal detectors, you probably assume that the guards work directly for the city, even though they have arm badges that say ABC Security. And I also doubt that most people know about the political drama that swirls around that particular contract, even though we've reported on it and other outlets have covered it. And that's what I see as sort of part of the transparency problem. These contracts directly affect people's daily lives, but much of the process, a lot of the controversies that happen, that's all going on behind closed doors.
Okay, got it. Now, I know there's another important dimension here, equity. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Oakland has goals for contracting with businesses that are owned by minorities and women. Does the lack of transparency make it harder to track progress on that front?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Oakland has rules in place to ensure that it's contracting with minority and women-owned businesses. That's something that I think all the city leaders want to see. When you don't have those annual reports that are supposed to be published every year, it's difficult to know if the city is meeting those goals. Also, when a contract gets extended repeatedly without competitive bidding, it creates a closed system. The incumbent contractor keeps getting renewed, and other businesses may never get a chance to compete. And, the other thing going on here is that many businesses don't have the resources to build those political relationships or hire lobbyists that will secure you contracts. Maybe they're competitive on the merits, but they may not be able to match the lobbying campaign waged by a rival to influence the decision makers in City Hall.
I also know there's a push to reform the city's contracting process. What are critics calling for?
Yeah, I think one of the main things people want is just basic transparency. So, the city's supposed to publish those annual reports on smaller contracts, so just do that. A second thing is to follow the competitive bidding process when it applies. So Josh Rowan, the interim director of Public Works, was really upset when some council members rejected his department's recommendation for who should get that security contract. His department worked on that contract for months. They had evaluated the bidders. They thought they had the right company for it. And he basically argued that by getting involved this way, the council undermined the perception that Oakland runs a truly competitive bidding process. And then I would say the third thing is just better oversight from city watchdogs like the auditor.
Do you get the sense that there's appetite among Oakland elected officials right now to make those kinds of changes?
I would say so. Mayor Lee has made contract reform a part of her 100-day plan when she took office. She's called for conducting a forensic audit of city contracts to make sure that public funds are being spent effectively and responsibly by contractors. She's also been working on permitting reforms to streamline city processes. This isn't about contracting per se, but it shows that she's focused on these kind of granular details about how the city operates. And I think the question here is whether these efforts will actually result in meaningful change to the contracting process, or if they'll be more about optics. I think this is going to be a, time will tell situation, and, we'll just have to see if the mayor follows through.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff we're talking about here, like it's in the weeds. It's in the weeds by design. It's not the sexiest stuff, but I think you're making a compelling case that it's important. For residents who want to stay informed on these issues, what should they be watching out for?
Yeah, I think a really good place that people can start from is watching the city council agendas. They get posted online on Legistar. And when you go through those agendas, that's where you'll see the contracts that are, worth over $250,000 come up. And you'll get to see when they're scheduled for meetings, which you can also attend, and you can hear the council members talk about it. And you can make public comments to give them a piece of your mind.
Yeah. And hey, folks, Eli's not going to say it, but I will. Keep reading Eli Wolfe's reporting. I know that he's going to be paying a lot of attention to this stuff. Thank you so much, Eli, for helping us understand this important part of city government.
Thank you.
And folks, you can find all of Eli's stories, whether we're talking about those missing transparency reports, the security contracts, or if you'd like to send Eli a tip. I know he loves hearing from tipsters. He is eli@oaklandside.org, and we're going to be linking to all of his reporting on this issue in the show notes. Next, we're going to hear from arts reporter Azucena Rasilla with her recommendations for your weekend activities and a look at cool fall events coming our way. I'm here with Azucena Rasilla, Oaklandside's arts and community reporter, to help you plan your weekend. We'll also look ahead to some exciting fall events. How you doing, Azucena?
Hi, Tasneem. Happy to be here.
All right. Always appreciate your great roundup of events going on in Oakland. It helps me plan my weekend. One that I learned about this week was an exhibit that you wrote about. It's at Eastside Art Alliance. It's called If Every Poster Was a Stone. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, the exhibit showcases Palestinian posters that were circulated across the country and others that were circulated online internationally, and that were created ever since October 2023. The closing reception is Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. and it's free. On Saturday, something really cool is happening in Temescal. 15 artists who are part of the Temescal arts community, I actually wrote about them a couple years ago, they are taking over an empty storefront at MacArthur Commons. They're filling the empty, vacant windows with art. They're making use of all the unused space while giving local artists a platform. The opening reception is that afternoon at MacArthur Commons courtyard, and it's free. The exhibit, there's no open hours, but you'll be able to see it from the windows, and it will stay up as long as the space remains without a lease.
Let's look ahead to fall. You've rounded some amazing events coming up in September, October. What should listeners be planning for?
Fall is honestly my favorite time in Oakland because there are so many incredible arts and culture events. Some of the big ones sell out fast, so people should start buying tickets now. For example, tickets for Autumn Lights at Lake Merritt go on sale on September 1st, and tickets for Glowfari at the Oakland Zoo go on sale on October 21st. Both of those are really popular.
Yes, I saw the September 1st in your roundup, and I immediately put that on my calendar because Autumn Lights is my favorite event of the season.
You know, I actually have never been, so tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, if you go this year, you are in for such a treat. It is this magical weekend all around Lake Merritt where they invite artists from all over the country to set up these amazing lantern displays, light installations. So you walk the path once it gets dark. Everything is glowing. It's beautiful. There's lanterns on the water. There's mazes. It turns the whole lake into this glowing wonderland. To me, it's just one of those events that is only in Oakland. It makes Oakland so special.
It sounds amazing, and it's a shame that I've never have seen it before. I need to check it out. But also, let me mention some other great events that people might not have heard about. For example, the Piedmont Pumpkin Patch and Haunted House opens actually later in September. There's also the Armenian Food Festival in Cleveland Heights. That's October 3rd and October 4th. I love that festival, and I try to go every year. And there's also the Life is Living Music Festival at the Fremery Park in West Oakland on October 11th.
One last event from your roundup. I know there's a big milestone coming up for the ballet. What's going on there?
Yeah, the organization turns 60 this year, and they're hosting a huge gala on November 1st. Tickets are on sale now, so yeah, make sure you grab those.
All right. So much great stuff going on. We're going to link to your fall events roundup in the show notes, as well as links to stories reporting that you've done on the places that we talked about. Check it out, folks. You got to get those tickets. Thank you so much, Azucena.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show. If you like this podcast, please check out oaklandside.org to get all the news about our town. And please consider supporting the work that we do here at Oaklandside by becoming a member. You can go click that donate button on our website. If your organization would like to sponsor some episodes, we would love to talk. That email address is editors@oaklandside.org. Also, we want to hear what you think. Did you love this episode? Have ideas for making it better? Please share your thoughts. Send us your questions. We love getting them, and we do read everything. Our email, again, is editors@oaklandside.org. Thank you to Natalie Ornstein for filling us in on Oakland headlines. Thank you, Eli Wolfe, for your investigative reporting on Oakland city contracts. Thank you, arts reporter Azucena Rasilla, for keeping us in the know on Oakland arts and events. Thank you to you, our audience. This show was produced and engineered by Callie Rhodes. Esther Kaplan was the show's editor. I'm Tasneem Raja. See you next week.